Welcome back to Queen's Mindset. If this is your first time joining us, welcome as we continue our series on Battered Bruised, Not Broken. Today with me, I have Sophonie, who has an interesting story to share. I can't wait for you guys to hear her story. It's so good. So before we go any further, I want you to do me one small favor and just remember to go right below and hit that subscribe button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so that you can continue to get updates on whenever we're bringing out our episodes. Now we're going to go straight into it. Sophonie, welcome to Queen's Mindset. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's really a blessing and an opportunity to be here. Whenever we get the chance,
Yeah.
an opportunity to share our story, it's really a blessing and it's really, something really special. So I'm happy to be here and happy to share all about me.
Yes. So now you say that, happy to share all about you. Tell us about you. Tell us a little bit about you. Who is Sophonie?
So I can say that basically Sophonie is a sister, a friend, a daughter. Most especially, I see myself as a servant. I always say that, I'm a servant of the kingdom, someone who loves people, someone who, who has a big heart. I don't really like to see people hurting or, unfairly going through things that are really not fair to them.
Yeah.
It just really gets to me. So, but more especially, we can say that an educator. I'm a singer. I'm an advocate for justice and equality. And I am a coach. I just started to, I just launched myself as a coach. So as of next year, I'll be starting practicing that. Yeah.
Wow, congratulations. Wow,
Thank
you
you.
do quite a lot, man.
Thank
And
you.
where are you from?
I'm from Haiti. Yes, I'm originally from Haiti. Came here at a really young age in the United States, and I've been living here ever since the age of 16.
Wow.
Um, I, from Haiti, I moved to South Florida, but now I'm in Boston. So
Okay.
I've been a little bit, we had to move. We relocated in the Boston area. So from sunshine and, palm trees to like really cold and
Yeah.
freezing weather, that's
I
me.
say
That's
over
where
there,
we are
yeah.
now. So right now we're in Boston, Massachusetts. Yes.
Oh, nice. I have an aunt that
hmm
actually lives out that side. I visited there sometime. When was my last visit there in 2014? That's quite long ago.
Wow.
But that's a
Yeah.
bit long ago. But I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it there. That's
Yeah.
good.
hmm
So we know that you have a story to tell. Tell us about your story. I know as we had spoken earlier, I know a little bit about it in terms of the challenges that you would have had, with
hmm
infertility. So, when did you recognize that you were infertile?
So it's a long story, right? It's a really long story. I think there's like different phases that women go through when they deal with polycystic syndrome, which is called
Mm-hmm.
PCOS, is what we
Mm-hmm.
refer to it as. So
Yeah.
it's basically, you have your hormones are imbalanced, you
Yeah.
get irregular periods, and later on you find out that early on or much later on when you're married and you're really concerned about conceiving, then you
Yeah.
find out that ovulation is an issue. So that's why I say there are different stages, because as a young lady you're
Mm.
like, okay, my period's
Good.
irregular, maybe I'm just gonna enjoy this, it might be a little bit fun because we don't we don't like to go through that. We don't
Yeah.
like to, because for some women, they really struggle with their period, and it's really something that should be celebrated. But because
Mm-hmm.
we experience it in such a negative way, or such a not in so much enjoyable way, that
Yeah.
we're like we don't enjoy that experience. So I think there are different phases to it, but I really realized that I was infertile,
Mm-hmm.
when once I was married and I was trying to conceive.
Wow.
So maybe like I was 20, 27, 28, because before that I never really dealt with, you know, with
Mm-hmm.
tracking my ovulation, when, what we had to do in order to make that baby happen. So I
Mm-hmm.
was never really aware of it before. But I was suspicious that it would be an issue, that we would have, that we would have many stumbling blocks in the way when we got ready to have kids. So that, that was kind of like there was like a red flag there.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of had an idea, but once you're married, it really hits. It's not
Yeah.
the same. So I can really say that after marriage is really when I found out that I was infertile. But even I wouldn't really say that I was infertile. It, it,
Mm-hmm.
it, um, it was just something that would require much, like so much energy, right?
Mm.
For us to figure it out.
Yeah.
And and of course, there are several things that I did, and we can get into that. But I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't really call it infertile because I was never really diagnosed as someone who was infertile. Because if you're infertile, you can't really have. So
Gotcha.
they'll tell you, oh, like this is what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Something's wrong with your womb, or you don't have ovaries, or some people have one ovary.
Yeah.
Um, my situation was not like that. Like from the age of 16 years old, I had been struggling with this condition
Oh wow.
all the way up to 37. I had my daughter last year at 37.
Wow.
So from 16 to 37 years old.
Wow.
And some of the I know I'm going really deep into this one question, but I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like there's so many layers to it.
Yeah.
At some point I had to ask God, is this what my story is going to be? Is this what you
Mm-hmm.
want my story to be? Do
Mm-hmm.
you just want me to be a servant? I'll serve you. I'll be okay without it. But is this really what you want? Is this really what you want people to remember me as? The woman
Mm.
who was struggling with PCOS and that could never have a job.
Yeah.
At some point I had to ask God that. But that's how I can answer that question, because
Mm-hmm.
there's many different layers to it. But basically, after marriage, it really hits. This is why I always tell women, take care of your health. You know, if you can figure out how to deal with that condition while you're
Mm-hmm.
not married, believe me, it's
Mm-hmm.
so much better for you. Do
Yeah.
it now. Get comfortable with your gynecologist, ask questions, work on your health, watch
Mm-hmm.
what you're eating. I, I cut off meat for like 2 years. You know, I,
Wow.
I, I, I eat meat now, but I plan on
Mm-hmm.
going back soon,
Yeah.
because we know we know all the stuff that goes into meat, and we know how hard it is for us to give up meat. But I did it. I did it. Why?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go vegan, but I simply cut it because of all the stuff they put in meat in this country. And I said, my hormones are in balance, and they're putting a lot of hormonal stuff in the meats. So one of the
Right.
ways that I can control that not to come and worsen this condition, one
Right.
of the things that I can do is just stop eating red meat.
Right.
I just kept on eating seafood, and I have an anemia history. So, I didn't want to be anemic and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I kept on eating fish. But, if you can eat lean meat, do
Mm-hmm.
that, because if your condition is PCOS, your hormones are imbalanced, and you have some condition with ovarian, your ovaries, something that can
Right.
complicate that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that you can do is definitely watch your diet.
Yeah. So
So,
when you found that out and you had to go to was that the first time now you had to go to the gynecologist, or were you already going to the gynecologist before?
so I mean, so why did I go to the gynecologist at 16 years of age?
Mhm.
My
Nobody
parents had
thinks of that, to be quite
my
honest, unless
my parents had to take me. My parents
yes,
had to take me because,
unless they
hey,
do.
your period came for the for the previous 2 months, but we
Yeah.
don't see it this month, and you're 16. We know you're not doing anything because we're always with you. You're
Mm-hmm.
not sexually engaged because
Mm-hmm.
you're 16, first of all. But I mean, that's not impossible for 16 years old to
True.
be engaged in that. But my parents took me wherever I went. Like I could be walking from school in Haiti, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
meet my dad face to face, like walking to go pick me up. I had a dad who didn't play. So they knew I was not engaged in any sexual activities. And, so they took me to the gynecologist. And at 16 years of age, I started hating going to the doctor.
Wow.
And every time I would have to go, we have to go, they put me on birth control pills, 16 years of age.
Yeah.
And like, I had no idea what I was taking until it was time to come here in this country. And my sister-in-law, who's a nurse, she looked at the pills and she's like, this is birth control pills. But we
Wow.
know that one of the ways to regulate, right? To regulate cycles is they put you on birth control pills. You
Yes, it
gain
is.
weight, you get bloated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 16. My body's been taking that since 16 years of age.
Wow.
So, they take you to the doctor. My dad just was like, let's go see what's going on. And like, I started going to the gynecologist regularly,
Mm-hmm.
because, once a young lady has her period, basically you go to your gynecologist regularly to start understanding your body and how your body's developing. And then later on that same year, I came to the US because I
Wow.
came here at the age of 16. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can say that since that time, I started hating going to the doctor. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I never liked it. But I just had to keep going. When I
Mm-hmm.
became a young lady, there were times I wouldn't go to the doctor for a whole year because I
Wow.
was like, I'm so tired of this. I already know the story. I already know the diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to hear it again. And honestly, I got to a point where I was like, you know what? Even if I don't have a child, I'll be fine. I used to say that.
Wow.
I used to say that. And I had to get to a place where I really asked myself, what is it that I really wanted? Because sometimes you can really feel yourself trapped because of what
Mm-hmm.
people are expecting you to do
Yes.
or society expects you to do, but it's not really
Mm-hmm.
you that wants it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you get to a place where you want something, right? Do you want
Yeah.
to go to school to become a doctor for your mom, for your dad, or are you doing that for you? Is that really
Right.
what you want? Or is
Mm-hmm.
that really or is that really what God has called you to do?
Right.
I'm gonna become a doctor and I'm gonna do world missions whenever I can.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your calling? So that's when I started going to the doctor.
Yeah.
But when I didn't have to go, I just didn't go, you know. But I got to a point, so I got to a point where I had to ask myself, is this really something that I wanted? And
Yeah.
once I realized that this was something that I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
then I really started praying about it. And then I started going to the doctor.
Mm. So how did you share that with your husband?
Um, I mean, from the beginning, right? From the beginning,
Yeah.
you tell that special person, well, yeah, we want to be together, but this is what's going on,
Yeah.
and the guys are like, oh, yeah, sure, no problem, yeah, no problem. They think they know, they think they
Yeah.
have a clue, but they have no clue.
Mm.
I'm telling you right now, they have no clue because something that I'm really coaching women is that it's really a mindset thing. It's
Mm.
a mindset thing. You really have to set your mind to really believe and reminding yourself constantly
Yeah.
at all times, no matter the place,
Mm-hmm.
no matter the condition, what's going on,
Yeah.
that hey, this is what's gonna happen. This is what God has in store for me,
Mm.
and this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm believing to happen. So from the beginning, my husband was down. He was like, yeah, babe, yeah, this is,
It's gonna be
we're not going to
fun.
be together just to have kids. So
Mm.
whatever it is, whatever the situation is, we'll go through it together. We'll go
Yeah.
through it together. And I'm really thankful for my husband because this was my second and last chance at love. Because, I went through I went through a brutal separation and divorce before that.
Oh, wow.
So this is my, this is God smiling at me again and favoring me all
Mm-hmm.
over again. So I'm really grateful for him. So we went through that together. We went through
Yeah.
that together. It's not easy. It's
Mm-hmm.
never easy, but with prayer, with goodwill and perseverance,
Yeah.
any married couple can go through it,
Mm-hmm.
because there's really nothing that's impossible to God. And if you have that strong shoulder with you, you can lean on, you can cry on,
Mm-hmm.
whatever the situation is, then you can get through. Because when one gets discouraged, the other one is strong. Like
You can
we
lean on
help
each
each
other.
other out.
Mm-hmm.
We up each. What do they say? They say moral support. That's kind of
Yes,
like
you have.
quote unquote your moral support when you
Mm-hmm.
just want to give up. So prayer, perseverance, and just keep pushing. This is really how we made it with God. With
Yeah.
God. Amen.
So did you have a child from the other marriage or you?
No, no. So yeah, so from the first marriage, there was a lot of pressure. I can say that there was a lot of pressure to conceive, to be able
Mm,
to have a child, but it didn't happen. It wasn't time yet. It wasn't God's will for me to have a child in that marriage.
yeah.
And honestly, it became a matter of life or death. So
Wow.
I had to leave um
Mm-hmm.
that marriage, and and waited on God and said, God, if you favor me, then that will be my story to share with the world.
Yeah.
So I'm really someone who's walked a long road to learn so many lessons and practice forgiveness, practice patience and
Mm-hmm.
perseverance.
Yeah.
Um, and to any woman out there or man out there, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, if it becomes a matter of life or death, choose life. You have to choose life. If it's up to you, well, it's always up to you to choose
Mm-hmm.
life.
Yeah.
You need to choose life. You need to choose life and just give the rest to God. Give the
Mhm.
rest to God. Yes. So I only had my daughter last year. Last year,
Yeah.
at 37 years of
Wow.
age, after 7 years of marriage, we had my daughter.
Wow.
Well, in that seventh year, we celebrated our seventh anniversary,
Mm-hmm.
and in January this year, she was no, in January last year she was born. So last year was my eighth. She was born in January 2020. So
Right.
I'm kind of like mixing up the years, because
Right.
this is a new year. Okay, bear with me. This is a new year. So yes.
Wow.
So and I always prayed for children. So
Yeah.
we're just believing God to, keep on blessing us, and
Yeah.
and we're here to receive the blessings. We're here to receive
Yes,
the
that
blessings.
is awesome. That is awesome. So did you, it was 7 years. So at any point did you, feel like giving up, or like how was that feeling? Because I'm sure you're waiting, you're trusting. And of course, I know from what you explained, your husband is letting maybe it's going to be fine, no matter what it is, it's going to be fine. But to you as a woman, how did you feel about being
Of
able to give
course,
up?
of course, you want to give up. We always want to give up, especially when you're at the end of the tunnel. You can already see the light. That is
Yeah.
exactly when discouragement steps in, or that is when the devil can already see I don't know, you can already sense that something is going to happen, and that's when different things strike.
Yeah.
So I can say that also through my marriage we experience um attacks that we really had to dive into prayer, where we sought God, when we had to ask God for his will, for him to be with us and to guide us. And so there was a lot of discouragement from the attacks that we received, but God really revealed to me that my marriage
Mhm.
was under attack. And when
Wow.
God gives you revelation that you're in a situation where you're being attacked,
Yeah.
then you know that you have to use different strategies, you have to do something differently. So from there, from being discouraged, but God revealed to me that it was an attack from the enemy. So that's when I readjusted myself. And, that's
Mhm.
when I become more strategic about what we
Mhm.
were doing. And of course, your life of prayer, that has to be stronger,
Yeah.
and always staying and being aware of things that are happening, and, you know, um, making sure that you're not really standing in God's way, because God's trying to work, right? God's trying to work. You never want to find yourself in a position where you're standing in
Mhm.
God's way,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
you're stopping your own blessing.
Yeah.
You have to move out the way and let God do what He's trying to do.
Mhm.
Um, so yes, there was a lot of discouragement from there. And I mean, I had my own conviction, right? From prayer to being more strategic, I had my own conviction. See, when you go to the doctor, you go to find out what's wrong with you, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Because you're not feeling well, or because you feel some type of way. You
Mhm.
already have suspicions of what the conditions might be, but you
Yeah.
really want a diagnosis, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
So now, once the doctor gives you a diagnosis,
Mhm.
when we say it's a mindset thing, it's up to you, right? It's entirely up to you to know how you're gonna receive that diagnosis,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Are you See, this is something that I teach to my mentees. You give me a diagnosis, right?
Mhm.
I have to understand what the science is saying, right? At the age of 16, when they told me why I was irregular, they
Mhm.
tried to understand. I understood what the science of that was and why that was happening. My faith wasn't there yet, so I was not really being strategic about
Right.
how I was praying, because I was a teenager. I was not married.
Wow.
I was like, okay, so what?
Mhm.
My period will come when it comes, and I won't miss it. That's how they're
Yeah.
thinking as a teenager, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But then when I was married, it was like, okay, wait, this is what the science says. I understand what the science is saying, but I
Mhm.
also understand God's word. God says that by His stripes I am healed, because Jesus died for me on the cross.
Yeah.
I claim healing. I said, God was the one who created me. When He formed me in my mother's womb, everything was in place, everything was
Mhm.
intact,
Mhm.
everything functioned the way they were supposed to function. So I said, I would make this prayer and I would say, okay, I command my ovaries to
Mhm.
function how God intended for
Them.
them to function, because God placed ovaries for us to carry children. I said,
Yes.
my ovaries will bear children, they will bear fruit. So I started declaring, like I was like reversing the
Yeah.
diagnosis
Yeah.
on my
Yeah.
body, right?
Mhm.
So this is what we have to do as women, because you can't just accept the diagnosis and have a pity party. So
Yeah.
like, what are you going to do about it? What are your
Mhm.
prayers? What are you going to claim? And
Yeah.
that's what I did. And that was the strategies that I had to use,
Mhm.
because I already knew what I wanted. See, I was no longer that 16 year old teenager that was like
Yeah.
happy not to see me, period. And
Mhm.
whether even when I would take a pregnancy test, like, because some months
Yeah.
my parent wouldn't show up, and it would be like, okay, am I pregnant? So I will do a pregnancy test. Even as the pregnancy test will say that, well, will read negative, I will celebrate and I will say, thank you, Jesus, because this means we can try again. Thank you, Jesus. This means not this time around, but the next one.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, for my daughter, I
Mhm.
didn't even really want to buy that pregnancy test. I
Oh
didn't buy that
wow.
pregnancy test because I took a last pregnancy test and I said this was going to be the last pregnancy test that I bought.
Yeah.
Look, I live in the US and
Mhm.
pregnancy tests are expensive. So
Mhm.
don't tell me about anywhere else. Like, I'm from
Mhm.
Haiti. I know they're expensive in Haiti. Okay. They are not cheap. And I'm here
Yeah.
and I used to be upset. And you're going to buy this pregnancy test that's already going to read negative, and you're like, Lord, okay, please come on. Let this
Yeah.
one be different. Let it read
Mhm.
positive.
Yeah.
So that's what I had to do. That's what I had to do. I had to really be strategic about that too. And
Mhm.
And here she is. And here we are with my miracle child.
Yes. So what
Yeah.
about going through the journey now? I mean, you found out you were pregnant. Of course, you're excited. You're like, oh my God, God answered my prayer, And then what about, I mean, because I'm assuming that if it was me, I would be very cautious, very careful, because I don't want anything to go wrong. How was that 9-month experience for you?
That was that was really exciting.
Okay,
I
good.
mean, we found out that I was pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, like on the fourth month.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know for the first 3 months.
Wow.
So everything was fine. I felt fine. I never had morning sickness or anything. I only had that terrible headache where I stayed home and did not go to church on a Sunday. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
That was absolutely it. Other than that, it was great. I ate everything. I went back to eating meat when I got pregnant because
Ah,
I didn't want to be anemic. So I went
ah,
back to eating meat because I have
mm-hmm.
anemia history.
Mm-hmm.
So like one of the reasons why my period, when I was in Haiti, that teenager, I had an anemia history too.
Wow.
So yeah. But yeah, it was a really great experience. And they say baby girls make you look ugly. I was beautiful. I was my best. People would always be like, "Oh my gosh, you're glowing. You
Yeah.
look so pretty." And every time I went to the doctor, I kid you not,
Mhm.
every doctor, whether it was the nurse practitioner or my doctor or another
Mhm.
doctor, they kept saying, "She's perfect. She's perfect.
Wow.
She's perfect. She's perfect." Like I don't know. People would probably say they say that to all patients, but I
Mhm.
don't know. They kept confirming that she was perfect. And
Wow.
there are a series of tests that they want you to do, they expect you to do,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially in my condition because I'm older. Remember,
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
37.
Yeah.
So I was pregnant at 36 and I had well, no, I had her at 37 because
Mhm.
I did not spend her pregnant with that pregnancy.
Yeah.
Um, there's a series of tests that they want you to do, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that test. You know, they want
Mhm.
they want to put a needle in your belly to find out, please forgive me if you're a nurse. I don't know the name of these tests. And they want to see if the baby's gonna have Down syndrome, because when the later you are,
Oh,
um,
because okay, okay. I
yes.
gotcha.
And I said, no, I'm not going to do that test. I'm not going to do
Mhm.
that test. So when the doctors kept saying she was perfect, but
Yeah.
even though they know you don't want to do the test, they have to
Yeah.
tell you. They still have to tell you
Yeah.
legally because that's, the law.
Yeah. You have to
They
know.
kept saying she was perfect. She was
Mhm.
perfect. Even in the first appointment, my husband was like, "Are you sure we don't want to do any tests, any of those tests?" I mean, there are
Yeah.
tests that we did that were necessary, but anything that
Mhm.
was not necessary, we did not do. And I said no because we spent 7 years paying for a child, and none of these
Yes.
doctors could do it, and God did it. We're not gonna do
Yes.
any of these tests,
Yeah.
and I did it, and
Mhm.
honestly, she's perfect. Now she's having me running all around the house. She grabs stuff and run, and it's like you're supposed to catch her.
Wow.
It's hilarious, and I can't run. I can't really run right now. Okay, you guys will know why later on, but I can't really run right now. I can't run. Can't run.
Wow. So I know you have your ministry, like you said, you have mentees and stuff. How has your experience impacted them?
So sharing my story, of course, has
Yeah.
been a blessing, and something I'm really blessed. I'm truly blessed to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Um, Last year we had our conference, which was, girl, you got a story to tell.
Oh.
And yeah, and we just had a platform with several ministers, several women that shared their stories. And it's on Facebook, it's on our page, it's E for Praise, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
God really showed out, and we're really happy about what God is doing
Mm-hmm.
amongst us. I came here also, as someone who came on a visa. I was a high school student and I graduated high school. I didn't know what I
Wow.
was going to do,
Mm-hmm.
with my life because my immigration status was still pending. But after that, you know, I started school like 2 years later. So I've always had a stronghold in my heart to be able to connect to youth or any student of, any kind that is trying to excel, to encourage them and tell them, hey, you can do it. Don't give up, just keep going. So
Yeah.
that's what my ministry is all about. Zephyr Praise is bridging worship with education, where, students who worship and
Yeah.
study, and students who study and worship.
Yeah.
Because as Christians, a lot of times we're like, how can my skills serve the kingdom of God? And that's really what kind of a space that is. It's a space created to encourage students and keep them mindful of how they can serve the house, with whether they're doctors or an auditor, or
Mhm.
a motivational speaker, like whatever the gift, we can really bring it to God's house and serve the house at
Yeah.
some capacity, to be able to connect and, and elevate
Yeah.
each other, and still, and it's still a ministry, something that God
Mhm.
can use for his glory.
Yeah.
We can glorify him when we're at work, and we
Mhm.
can glorify him when we're in church,
Yeah.
with the calling that he is giving us, as
Yes.
as Christians. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm working on different writings, so I will be a published author very soon, and I'll be sharing that with the
Awesome.
world. Yeah, so we're just trusting God to take us where he wants to
Yeah.
take us. And really, I think the heart of a ministry is doing things behind the scenes, like
Mhm.
things that people don't even know or don't even see.
Yeah.
I'm a creative, so I'm
Mhm.
always thinking about the forgotten ministries, things that people are not doing, things that people are not focused on, things that people are not
Mhm.
doing, so that I can really reach those people. Like
Yeah.
students that come here and, they want to go to school, but they don't have papers. How can they get started? How can I encourage them? How can I, mentor them to keep going and not give up?
Yeah.
Um, Women that are like, men. There's
Mhm.
a young man that I connected with, and he said he went through a divorce. His wife used to beat him up, and when he got out of the marriage here in the U.S., when he got out of the marriage, his pastor told him he would go to hell. His pastor told him he would
Mhm.
go to hell. So, like, what are we doing to reach those people? What are we
Yeah.
doing to
Yeah.
reach those souls? Because
Mhm.
it's not, we don't determine who's going to go to heaven or hell. We don't determine that. That's, God decides. Jesus, he paid the price, and, he gave us the conditions to eternal life.
Mhm.
John 3:16 says it clearly. And, there are different things, trials and tribulations that we're going to go through. And these things don't define us. These things don't determine where we're going to end up as
Yeah.
Christians. So we need
Mhm.
to really be careful what the church is not doing, you and I, we can do. Or what the church is doing wrong, you and I, we can do it differently, and
Yeah.
make these people remember and know that they matter and that God cares about them.
Mhm.
hmm
That's really
So
good.
that's what our ministry is all about.
Yeah.
It's really, um, and of course, women struggling with infertility, which is like a new chapter. I'm not an experienced mom. I've been a mom for a year, but if someone, that's why I'm gonna start coaching women.
Yeah.
If they want to work on their, on their pregnancy journey and train
Mhm.
their mindset, then that's
Mhm.
what I'm going to help them with. And, also young girls, so that they don't just rejoice when they don't see that period, but they're aware of
Mhm.
their bodies, and,
Yeah.
and what they can do and how they can start taking care of their health. Because
Yes.
the sooner we know these things, the better.
That's important. Yes. Yes.
hmm
Yes.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
where can our audience find you if they want to follow any of your pages or anything like that, to get any information or even be a part of your mentorship program? Where can they find
hmm
you?
So 2 pages. They can find me on Instagram. That's Zepha Praise, right? Zepha Praise. Just as it is, Praise. And the second one is Laurore Coaching. It's hilarious.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I know we're running out of time, so I have a final question for you, and that is, what advice would you give to a woman who may be going through a similar situation right now? She's really trying to have a child, but it's not happening the way that she wants it. It could be because of the fact that either she's going through the PCOS, right?
PCOS.
PCOS as well, or
Mhm.
maybe it may be other complications. What would be your advice to someone like that's going through that?
Oh, of course, absolutely. So my first advice to you, right? My first advice, remember what I said about what science says? You have to identify what the science is saying. Like, do you know the diagnosis? Do you know what's going on? Do you know what's wrong? It's okay to acknowledge what that is. Remember, you just want to acknowledge it and know it the back of your head. It's not going to be your God, but you just want to know what it is so you can identify it. So go to your doctor. When was the last time you went to the doctor? Your health is important. You can't pray to God for a miracle when you're not really acknowledging the medicine side of things. Because remember, God is the one who gave us intelligence, and people became doctors, and they invented medicine.
Yeah.
God has put so many things, here for us to be able to use them. Remember, God's not gonna do your part. So you need to do your part. Go to the doctor. Yeah, Jesus is not gonna go to the doctor for you. Go to the doctor first thing and find out what's going on. You know, maybe you had a physical done last year. It's time to do another one. Go to the doctor. Even for men watching this, go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Okay, one. And two, you wanna have your own conviction with God. What is your conviction with God? Have your own conviction with God. Okay, Lord, they say cancer is there. Okay, I know you're a God that can get rid of cancer. Maybe you're not trying to have a baby. Whatever the condition is, then you're going to have your own conviction with God. Your own condition with God is between you and God,
Yeah.
right? Maybe you want to get married next year. Maybe you want to go to a store right now and buy your wedding dress. I don't know. It takes faith to do that. That's
Yeah.
between you and God. I can think it's crazy, but hey, maybe that step of faith will move God's heart. Maybe, right? Because God will see our intentions. He sees our intentions. He sees our hearts,
Yeah.
right? And then finally, you wait on God, right? Because you can't just sit around and wait on God and not go to the doctor and not strengthen your prayer life, right? And I mean, even waiting on God, while you're waiting on God, train your mind, train your mindset. You can't be all over the place.
Yeah.
You can get, if you're trying to get pregnant, you can get mad about everything. I'm telling you, you need to be the happiest person, because if your hormones are imbalanced,
Yeah.
you're moody, you have mood swings. No, honey, you need to be aware of your emotions and just be like, oh, happy day, and smile all around. Even though you're not smiling inside, you need to be smiling. You cannot just explode for everything.
Yeah.
Because when God is working, who knows if the baby's not already growing inside of you and you're getting mad. You can have that. So these are the 4 things that I would give you guys to
Yeah.
use. Like, no matter what it is, maybe you want a car, maybe you want to get married, maybe you want to finish school, whatever it is, these steps are applicable to every single one of us. You may have to switch number one to, I don't know, go see your advisor, go see your teacher, but it's all applicable to us, every single one of us, wherever we are. As we wait on God, let's do our part. Let's be diligent and do our part.
Yeah.
So, in this 12-part series, you'll hear stories about a single mother dealing with a quadruple amputee. You'll hear the stories of the journey to purity. You'll hear the stories about brokenness that led to wholeness. You'll hear the stories about facing imperfections. You'll hear the stories of how prison led to purpose. You'll hear the stories about fertility issues and how that rendered them barren. You'll hear the stories about domestic violence. You'll hear the stories of how a miscarriage saved a life. You'll hear the stories about dealing with insecurities and finding your identity. You'll hear the story of how a headache led to a coma. You'll hear the stories about a fatal accident that almost cost a daughter her life. You'll hear the stories about dealing with suicide and a tumor.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. I really enjoyed talking to you. I am sure
So did I. So have I. Yes.
I am very sure that our audience have gotten a lot of nuggets to take away today because you really shared a lot from the heart. And I really want to thank you so much for sharing with us today. And to you guys who are watching out there, please apply those 4 steps that she's given to you. If there is something that you are waiting for or looking to receive, and apply them, you will get the results. You've heard her story of how she applied it and she got the results. I'm sure you will too as well. But before we go, do not forget, just down below, make sure you've subscribed, make sure you like, make sure you have commented and share this video with someone else because you could bless someone. You can change someone's life by just sharing this video with them. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Bye.
Definitely. Bye-bye.